Hello, hello, amigos, amigas. Welcome to Lima, Peru. Welcome to another From Home edition. And today we're going to discuss a very important breaking news of Peru. Probably most of you already know the story or a bit of the story. So first of all, thank you so much for your interest in this particular theme, this story, this news that have created an earthquake of 9 degrees in the people of Peru, in the politics of Peru, in the daily life of Peruvians, and not just Peruvians, also people from around the world that were planning to come to Peru or came to Peru during the past 2 weeks and had to face this situation with us all. Also, thank you so much to my colleague Elizabeth that today hosted an event alike to this one from her perspective, from the perspective of someone that lives in the Andes of Peru, that lives in the beautiful Arequipa, the white city, and how the situation is being perceived there in that part of the nation. It is not that we have different realities. We are one country. But the situation that we're going to be talking about has been experienced differently in different parts of the country. And today I want to talk about the self-coup that happened on December the 7th, explaining a bit of who is Pedro Castillo, also the former president, now former president of Peru, and also explaining how, as a Limanian, someone from Lima, and this is, by the way, my personal opinion. I am not talking really like if, I will represent all Limanians or all Peruvians, of course, but let's say from a humble perspective, how the situation was perceived by locals. So before we start, thank you so much for joining, amigos. Gracias. I see lots of names of friends that have been with me since the beginning. Marlene, Ellen, Diane, hello, Margaret, hola, SK, Ruth. Thanks for coming, amigos. Many of my amigos today, amigas, are also friends in common with Patrick T. So gracias. Thanks a lot for coming also today to visit me. Well, I see lots of names: Chloe, Sarah, Diane. I cannot name them you all because, it will take me long, but gracias. Thanks for coming. Martin, the Culture D, Tony, Bill. Sorry if I was not able to say your names. I'm so happy that you are here today. It gives me lots of, life, fills me with positivism in a time which it has been really a nightmare. And we tour guides, we are like artists. We are giving to our public. We are here for you. And sometimes we have to put a big smile on our face, and the show must go on, we all say, as the artists and actors say. But in today's occasion, we're going to talk about, the conditions in which we are living. And I will explain also my worries as a tour guide. Marlene, gracias. Thank you. Martin, thanks for your tip support. As you know, this is a free platform. HeyGo is a wonderful way to travel the world, and it's for free. But if you would like to support this event and HeyGo as well, you can share with us a tip, which is going to be also share split by the platform and us. So thank you so much. You can do that at any time during the event, especially if you found this event useful. And also, please pass the voice about this website with all your friends, relatives, and everyone that you want to share the world with. Gracias, Bob. Thank you. So now we're going to start. We're going to begin. I think the group is complete. We are here all. So I decided to name this event Breaking News, as we're going to be talking also in this specific series. Every time you see it, breaking news about Peru, that will be important to discuss, not just for people who are coming to Peru or going to come to Peru, anyone that is interested in reality of Peru and South America. So today we're going to talk about the self-coup that happened in Peru last December the 7th. Lots of things had happened also since that day. So I think that, and we, Elizabeth and I, we took some time to create this event. So in this way, we could give you more information, because to be honest, when it happened, nobody saw it coming. Nobody. Not politicians, not like a specialist saw this it coming. And we have to talk about Pedro Castillo, first of all, to understand what happened in Peru and who was the person who was deposed, the president who was deposed, removed from his position on that same day, on the day in question, December the 7th. So Pedro Castillo Terrones was born in October 19, 1969, in Puña, a little town in the province of Chota. We're talking about the north part of Peru, the north region, Cajamarca. Actually, my family comes from Cajamarca. Part of my family comes from there. He was the third of 9 children, and the son of 2 illiterate farmers. And this is probably one of the reasons why he became a teacher. So he wanted to be a professor, a teacher, to educate children and also adults, if needed, to give them the opportunity, to come into, the educated world. But he also, let's say, worked the land as his parents, so he knew the agricultural work, and actually his work as a teacher was used also as a way to escalate in the political sphere in Peru, because he represented the poor, he represented the people of the rural areas, and for a long time in all Latin America, politicians and the politics was run by European descents or well-educated people, that had really like let's say a complete different life than the one of the rural zones, and that's why the people of the rural zones didn't feel represented by him. I'm just giving you an idea of who is Pedro Castillo first, and then we're going to talk directly about the coup, the self-coup. So this is the symbol of his political party, Peru Libre, Free Peru, and the pen. Actually, Pedro Castillo used a lot the following phrases when he was in his quest to become a president, and also when he already became a president. First of all, he always say palabra de maestro, or master's work, or teacher's word. Teacher's word. Palabra de maestro, teacher's word. So everything he said or he promised, he said that, it was a promise that will become true because it was the word of a teacher, right? And this is very important because people believe and trust the teachers very much as the authorities of the little communities, right? Actually, in the little rural communities, there are no more authorities than teachers sometimes. Well, he often used this word, in his speeches. He was also a rondero, which is part of the patrolling system of the Andes, of the mountain areas. So he really was very involved in the lifestyle of the people of the Andes. He was really one of them. Mm-hmm. And also he used another word: no more poor in a rich country. No más pobres en un país de ricos. With these promises, he gained lots of votes, and later on, he became president of Peru. Actually, when he finished his term, like a few days ago, he was not even president for 2 years. So it's very important to mention that. He was frequently compared with former Bolivian President Evo Morales and the Ecuadorian President Rafael Correa. But Castillo himself tried to convince, let's say, people, that he was away from the idea of being or becoming a Hugo Chavez or a Nicolás Maduro. So, Nicolás Maduro, Hugo Chavez used to be president of Venezuela until he passed away some years ago, replaced later by Nicolás Maduro. So he was a leftist. He is a leftist openly, but he tried to not being connected too much with the extreme left of South America, right? Like Venezuela. But he was very connected with Bolivian president, with Ecuadorian president, and also Mexican president, which is very interesting, no? Because here, for example, we see the picture of a lady. Who'd recognize her? Does anyone here in the group have heard about the Fujimoris, by the way? Oh, quite an interesting last name, because when we talk about Fujimori, probably you're thinking about Japan, maybe, no? But, Fujimori is a last name that is very powerful here in Peru. Alberto Fujimori used to be a president, a Peruvian president with Japanese ancestry, Japanese background, right? So Fujimori now is in prison. He continued with a tradition of presidents in prison. From the last 20 years, we had several presidents that ended up in prison. Not an exception with Pedro Castillo. So this is Keiko Fujimori, no? Keiko Fujimori almost won the contest, the last contest for presidency. She was the contender of Pedro Castillo, no? And most of the times people really voted for her because they didn't want the left to win, Pedro Castillo. And also many people that voted for Pedro Castillo didn't want a Fujimori to win. Because, Fujimori also had his issues. I think we are going to talk about in another event the story of Fujimori, and how he became president, and about the self-coup he also did. We're going to do it briefly, but maybe in another occasion a little bit more about him. Okay, so they represent the interests of the right. Okay, and they are the sort of like the opposite of the group that supports the interests of Pedro Castillo. So we're going also to talk about another important person, because Pedro Castillo was not able to become a president on his own. He was really part of a big machinery that for a long time tried also to gain a representation, not just in the Congress of Peru, in the presidency of Peru. We're talking about the left, the extreme left. And also in some of the cases, some of these people that are associated with this extreme left and the political party Peru Libre of Pedro Castillo are also militants or former militants of let's say, terrorist groups, like the Shiny Path or the MRTA. And definitely associated with the left. For example, Vladimir Cerrón. Vladimir Cerrón was really not let's say, a minister, or not a congressman. But he was able to reach out in politics very high. I think he was governor of Junín, for example, in the Andes of Peru. And he is a professional, but he is a person that is very, very connected with the Marxist-Leninist, let's say, movements of Peru. And he was the person that made things happen for teacher Pedro Castillo. And he was the person who invited him to be part of this political group, Peru Libre, and later, he supported him until the presidential place, right? But there's problems with him, no? Because we know that there were disagreements between Vladimir Cerrón and Castillo. Vladimir Cerrón, as you know, is the leader of Peru Libre Formation, an orthodox left-wing political party, who helped the president to build his candidacy and, led him later to being president. Okay? So there were fights between them. And that's also how, that was the moment when the political party that supported Castillo broke in two parts. And that's the moment when Castillo started to become very, very weak. Very, very weak. leading this finally to the situation of the destitution of the president. There were two attempts of the Congress of vacancy of the president, and well, finally, the last one happened when on December the 7th, he created this situation of a self-coup. So the Congress decided to declare the vacancy from office due to the permanent immoral capacity, that's what they said, of the president. Mm-hmm. How you can, let's say, put vacant a president? In Spanish or in Peruvian Spanish, we say vacar. So the vacancia or the vacancy of this of the president can come in some situations. For example, if the president dies, we have to restitute this let's say this work with another person. For permanent incapacity, moral or physically, right? Remember that this is the second one is the one that has been used by the Congress to destitute president, the presidents, that we had, Pedro Castillo. And there are some other reasons, resignation, for example, of the president, and some other. Now we have a female president. And her name is, Dina Boluarte. So Dina Boluarte is the first female president of Peru. So, of course, we girls, we women, we didn't want our first female president to come up like this. We wanted her to be voted, her to be, let's say, elected, because we were preparing for long the nation to be less machistic and having, like an openness to accept a female president. But, well, finally, the vice president, she was the vice president, immediately escalated to the position of president on December the 7th, just hours after Pedro Castillo declared the self-coup. So she is a professional, of course, and unfortunately she has not expressed or let's say, or shown the strength she needed to show in a situation like this one. Later, I will tell you why. When she accepted the position of president given by the Congress of Peru, she said that she will stay until 2026, which is the time when officially the period of the president ended. And that's something people didn't like much because most of the supporters of Pedro Castillo consider her to be replacing the president, a person that they consider still a president. Thank you for your support, amigos, by the way, for your tip support. Thanks, Chloe. Well, they consider her to be taking the place of a person that was chosen by the people, right? So that's why she has big, let's say, repellence by many people in the country. People feel not embracing her in this moment. So I would like also to mention something really interesting. And I remember last time when we were with Patrick. Hola, Patrick. I was talking about Patrick. Our friend Patrick Tomei from Banff is here also. I remember the one of the events we had. We were talking about the many presidents we had in Peru in the last years. I hope you remember that, Patrick. So I just want to, make sure that everybody understands how complicated this situation has been. Because, all of these presidents you see in front of us have been here in the country since, 2016, in the case of Pedro Pablo Kuczynski, until nowadays, Dina Boluarte, right? So look at the names. Pedro Pablo Kuczynski, he is in home arrest in this moment. Martín Vizcarra, he is probably in his way to be arrested, imprisoned, because he has also a lot of, let's say, files connected with corruption. Manuel Merino, Francisco Sagasti, Pedro Castillo, in this moment, he's been given 18 months for preliminary prison to do the investigations, to finally, well, if possible, for the people who are against him, put him in jail, right? And now the first female president of Peru, Dina Boluarte. Oh, so Peru has been in a political crisis since a long time ago. So we're talking about, Castillo being the fifth president of Peru since 2017, right? So we've been having 6 presidents so far, right? Many people say, how come Peru? Thank you, amigos, for your support. Muchas gracias, Sarah, Ruth. Thank you. Many people say, internationally, how come Peru can be so stable economically? The currency of Peru being so stable, like with all of these constant earthquakes in the politics. Maybe that is one of the reasons. Maybe we don't let them be, for long in the position. So they are just for a couple of, years max, and they're gone, right? So maybe I'm just venturing to say something that I consider we have to take in consideration, no? But it has been really, really crazy, no? So, and also, continuing with this situation, this series about the presidents of Peru, and this situation of, presidents in prison, right? So 6 presidents, it says the note in the upper part, gracias Rosie, Caitlin, that have been splashed with scandals of corruption. That's what it says there. Alberto Fujimori, 25 years, given 25 years for let's say for like it says crimes against human rights, for example, and corruption. Alejandro Toledo, he's in the United States and has been asked extradition. He's not coming back, of course. Alan Garcia, he died in 2019. He committed suicide, by the way, but he was on his way to prison. Ollanta Humala, he was also in prison. Now he's free. Pedro Pablo Kuczynski, you know already, he is in house arrest. And Vizcarra, he's probably on his way very soon. So it's very important to remember that on that December the 7th of this year, it was 11:30 a.m. We were all doing many things. I remember I was preparing an event that I was actually doing a few minutes after. I think it was 11:45. Maybe some of you were with me in that moment. And I said, I am in shock because this is what happened. Our president declared a self-coup. He closed the Congress of Peru, right? And he also decided that, of course, the Congress will not be working, so he will be taking decisions by, let's say, sorry, I cannot find the word in English, but just by, saying, he will take the decision. So he will be saying things, yes. So it will be just moments in the day when he will be coming out and say, the reforms, right? But there is something really interesting that happened here. Gracias, Liz. Thank you, amiga. Because he tried to do something that it happened before in Peru, in the history of Peru. It was April the 5th, 1992, when President Alberto Fujimori did exactly the same, a self-coup. Alberto Fujimori, he closed the Congress. He said that he would be doing a big reform of the nation. And you know what happened with him? The people of Peru supported Fujimori. Supported. It was almost unanimous. And not just the people of Peru supported Fujimori. The military supported Fujimori. This is a picture of that year, 1992. With the militaries like outside the Congress, a Congress that Fujimori closed that day. So why Fujimori's self-coup was so successful in comparison of the one of Pedro Castillo? Peru was infested by terrorists back then. We had terrorists in every part of the country, even infiltrated in the Congress. Many of these terrorists, which were, of course, like well connected, they were, like stopping, things to be changed for them to continue creating the terror, causing the terror and the instability of the country. Also, the currency of Peru was to the floor. It had no value. The inflation was huge, an inflation that started also aggressively during the time of Alan Garcia before Fujimori. Actually, many people voted for Fujimori because they trusted in the words of Japanese men. They considered the Japanese people were people of honor, and they needed something different. And in a way, Fujimori behaved good. But also, he's in prison, and there are reasons for that. But he still has lots of supporters. In Peru, we are half and half. Pro-Fujimori, against Fujimori, after so many years, and after him being in prison. Imagine that. So, but this was a completely different context. Mr. Pedro Castillo had neither the supporters. Terrorism was not actually the threat that it used to be. And in a way, many people connected him with terrorists, connected him with extreme left. So many people are afraid of the sphere around him that actually caused terrorism. So people really didn't support Pedro Castillo, and neither the military forces, amigos, neither the military forces. So he was alone. And that's how the situation escalated in a violent way. So what we are seeing here is a picture of the groups of people that were protesting after, let's say, the self-coup, the attempt of self-coup, and also a couple of hours after the attempt of self-coup. And it's very curious because I will turn the camera just for a little while. So Mr. Pedro Castillo proclaimed at 11:30 a.m. The self-coup in national television from the Palace of Government. And then he expecting that he will receive support from the militaries. One of the reasons is because that day, that afternoon in the Congress was to be a final investigation, and also he will be called to be present for a possible destitution of the president from his position. But that is not easy. He needed to have, a certain amount of supporters in the Congress for not being vacant, right? So, and he for sure had enough people supporting him, but he was afraid. He didn't believe he would have enough number of people supporting him. So that's why he decided to go ahead instead of, being exposed and not being able to do anything, being tied of hands. He decided to go to do the self-coup before this meeting in the Congress. So the Congress was already prepared, right? And that's why just minutes after that happened, the Congress reunited and they started to vote it. And in that moment, even the people who had sworn, let's say, to him, to Pedro Castillo, to go until the end with him, they turned their back to Pedro Castillo. And a big number of people voted for his vacancy. So in that moment, Pedro Castillo left Palace. He left Palace with a group of bodyguards, his family in another car, and also one of his closest advisors also with him. And there's not really clear certainty about this, but seems that he was going in direction to the embassy of Mexico. Mexico, which is also a left side country, nation, offered support to Pedro Castillo. No, so but this is not something clear. Actually, Castillo, in his defense, he has denied that he asked for asylum in Mexico, but it will really never be completely clarified. So on the way to the embassy, the traffic of Lima, anyone that has been in Lima, oh, Liz, no worries. Thanks for coming, by the way. The traffic of Lima made his way so slow that in the meantime, the militaries decided to stop him. And, he was detained, right? So this is what happened after. People who were in Lima, supporters of Lima, immediately started to protest because they said, he was the legitimate president, the person who was, chosen by the people. And actually, days after, this became a massive demonstration of people protesting because they said that, this was the men who they chosen, the ones who they voted for, and they didn't believe in the congressmen. And many people started to ask for the change of the Congress. And also, they didn't want Dina Boluarte because Dina Boluarte, in one occasion, said that if Pedro Castillo was removed from the position, she will go with him. But she did something very different. The minute he was removed from the position, she accepted receiving the honor of being president of Peru right immediately. So people started to protest and they started to do vandalism. I am sure that many people in Peru, not just in Lima, in all Peru, had legitimate, reasons to protest, and they were not really using this as vandalic, acts, but they were vandals in these groups of protesters. People who break into airports. This is a picture of the airport of Arequipa, for example. People who stop or to block roads. People that were putting pressure for Pedro Castillo to be liberated, and also for calling new elections and calling, election for congressmen. It was and still is in parts of the country chaotic. Also, again, some pictures of the airport of Arequipa. Also, the same happened in Cusco and the same happened in Puno. It's been a nightmare. I had tour groups that were neither able to come to Lima or going from Lima to continue with their trips because of the closing of airports. Nowadays, in this moment, airports are working again. And this is because, and a little bit late to be very honest, 1 week after all of these vandalic acts started, the government decided to do a final move, which was declaring the state of emergency. So what is the state of emergency? And if you want to come to Peru in the next weeks, or if you know someone that is coming to Peru in the next weeks, right? So if you want to know, is it possible to travel to Peru now during the state of emergency? This state of emergency has been declared on December 14th, so just a few days ago. A state of emergency is a condition that is created by the Constitution. It's a regime, it's an exception regime provided by the Constitution in cases of disturbance of internal peace and order, catastrophes, for example, or serious circumstances that affect the nation and affect, the visitors to Peru, right? So this state of emergency is going to last for 30 days calendar. So it's going to finish on January 13. And it means that the army is going to take control in some occasions and back up the policemen. So the police is the force that regulates the civilians, right? The civilians. Sorry, I'm seeing a question over here. Sorry, Patrick, I'm sorry your question is quite long, so I'm interested. Do you think a commitment to new elections will come? Patrick, good question. Good question. Actually, I will talk in a moment about the elections because yesterday there was a reunion in the Congress, and that was discussed. So I will talk about that in a moment. This is for the question. Thanks for the question. So I was saying that the police is the let's say the group that regulates the actions of the civilians, right? In times of peace, is the police that takes care of everything. But in situations like this one, this is like a sort of like an internal war for moments. So the state of emergency, what does is that the police that has lots of limitations. A policeman cannot just, like say, go away and show the gun to you, like saying I'm being serious. No, because, immediately the nonsense will come against the police and the police can go to jail. They have lots of regulations, but the militaries don't. So the militaries can come, and in cases in which, the vandals are like a breaking, there have been hotels that have broken, like jewelry stores that have broken. That has nothing to do with the, the calling for a change of Congress. Nothing to do. There's people that are taking advantage of this situation in their personal benefits, for their personal benefits. And also infiltrated people that are part of these terrorist groups that still exist, that are there. Asusando, we say moving people. So, and there are people that are legitimately protesting because they want changes. Okay, so we have all kinds of people there. So this means that, the state of emergency, that the armed forces will support and not replace the national police. So, which is very important, because at some point, the police has been also, let's say, hurt. We have lots of policemen in hospitals, although in this moment, unfortunately, 22 Peruvians, civilian Peruvians, have died due to these fights, to these circumstances, and we probably keep counting. So what are the restrictions during this time in Peru? The restrictions are, first of all, we can go to parties. It's okay to go to parties. We can go to nightclubs. We can go to cinemas. We can have family reunions. As a traveler, you can go to parties. You can go to nightclubs. That's not a problem. But if the military forces and the police consider that the reunion in which you are, there's been, a reunion there for other purposes, like maybe for organizing a strike, or something related with this protest, they can break into the house, and if it's the situation like that, take people to let's say, to investigation. Also, you can travel, no problem, within the country. There's freedom of movement. You don't need to have a special permit to move in Peru. You can travel. It is okay to travel in Peru, right? And that's why we are taking back airports. We are taking back the main squares. And it's necessary to bring stability, because it is okay to protest, but you cannot stop the work of other people. They are vendors. They are owners of hotels, owners of restaurants, owners of businesses that pay taxes. There are good people that pay taxes, and these protests are scaring away tourism. They are scaring away investment. They are scaring away, like all the possibilities of prosper after a pandemic. We've been 2 years not able to receive tourism. We don't want this. They have legitimate right to protest, but they don't have the right to destroy the lives of people who are willing to work because they have necessities, because they have families. So that's why the police and the militaries in this moment are allowing people to come to Peru, and to keep traveling. And now our problem is that we need to bring back confidence in people to travel to Peru. It has taken us long. This year, we've been nominated as the best South American culinary capital, Lima, and Peru, and Machu Picchu, the best archaeological destination of South America, Machu Picchu. So what do we do with that if we cannot have the stability to receive visitors to come to Peru, right? It's just words. So we don't have curfew, amigos. We don't have a curfew in Peru. We have a state of emergency, okay? So as you know, it will finish on January 13, 2023. So about the Constitution, the change of the Constitution, well, this is something interesting because many people are asking for a change of Constitution and they don't know why. When you go to the protest and ask the people, why you want the change of Constitution, they say, because I want all the congressmen out. And one thing has nothing to do with the other. There are people that are protesting because they know why they're protesting for, but there are many people that are protesting because they're being used. And that's what we are seeing in many of these protests. I am up for, let's say, the freedom of protest, but many people don't know why they are doing so. So the idea of the change of constitution, well, I will tell you both sides. No, there is one, of course, let's say, a group of people who are trying to, in a way, sort of like give to the indigenous peoples more rights, especially because the constitution we have, for example, one of the things that has been handled the most is the fact that in Peru, for example, the soil, you can be the owner of the soil, but not what is underground, right? Like, for example, minerals, petrol, and that the government sort of like has abuse of this rights they have over the minerals, for example, the rights over the minerals, to exploit locations in which farming has been more important for long, right? So therefore, many people say the constitution has to be changed. But to be very honest, many people don't know that our constitution, which is the one of 1993, it is the one that was created after the self-coup of Fujimori. This constitution is neoliberal. And also many of the reasons why Peru has progressed in the last years, decades, is because of the constitution we have, because it motivates international investment. The new constitution that has been proposed is more based in benefiting the state. But the reform and giving more power, to do reforms, okay, fast. The problem is that once you have fastness in doing reforms, the ruling group can do whatever they want, okay? So this is the biggest concern many people have. We have also another constitution from 1979, which many people were proposing to bring back. But probably the idea is really to create a new constitution, completely new and tailor-made. This is the idea many people have about the new constitution. I remember the question of Patrick also, which is, for example, this idea. Sorry, I'm trying to find my. Oh, sorry. Let me just go back because I want to play some videos. I think that's the problem here. About, like changing the Congress. Sorry that this is an ad. Changing the Congress. So the idea of changing the Congress has been debated, has been also conversed, but it would be unlikely in this moment. It has been dismissed already, by the way. Yesterday was the last conversation. Why? This is what has been happening also. This is vandalism. This is not protest. This is a bank. They broke into a bank. Also, this is a mobiles store, a communications store, Claro, here in Lima. And look what they have done, right? So I was saying that the reason is because, very interesting, the person, in this moment, who is trying with also escalate. Oh, sorry. This is in the case of Dina Boluarte. First of all, the groups were trying to remove Dina Boluarte from the position. It will not happen because the leftists are the one that want Dina Boluarte out. But if she is out, the person who will become president is a military man who is considered to be one of the heroes from the time of the fights with terrorism. And this man is completely against terrorism and the left. And also the president of the Congress that will become, if this situation happens, she is the sister of one of our heroines who died during the time of terrorism. She was killed by terrorists. So they are both completely against the left, the extreme left. So in this moment, what has been more ventilated, and it's amazing, by the way, amigos, that it is supposed that most people are asking for the change of the Congress, right? The voting of the new Congress. But the left in the Congress is the one that has decided not to support this idea. So why? they are supposed to represent the interests of these people. No? So we don't know exactly why, but definitely something is not really like benefiting them. So now what has been, the figure has been presented is the possibility instead of having sorry, I forgot the name, Asamblea Constitutional Assembly, which is one to create a constitution, right? So, but it still is debated, okay? These are images in Cusco, the beautiful city of Cusco, the beautiful city of Ayacucho, the beautiful city of Arequipa, and even historic center of Lima has been vandalized also. So just to give you an idea that the country has been suffering for 1 week. This is impossible. I saw a question from Michaela. Thank you, amiga. I miss you so much. Thanks for coming. Our media says that it's a curfew for certain regions. Yes, Cusco, Arequipa. Yes, Michaela. The curfew, not for Lima. Not for Lima. Cusco, Arequipa, yes, starting at 6 p.m., I think, or no, 8 p.m. for Cusco. I remember Arequipa also, the zones that had the most violent activities. Lima, no. So there's no curfew in Lima. Thanks also for Micaela, because you helped me clarify that detail. Gracias, amiga. Martin, have railways reopened? They had been, the workers of the railway system, which is a private company, by the way, have been reinstalling the railroads, because the railroads have been even taken out. And blocks of rocks and all of that. So, but it's going to be also soon completely fixed, if not already. And also there are some alternatives to go to Aguascalientes town, which is the town of Machu Picchu, without the train. It's a longer trip, of course, but it's possible. What we need is just like not more of these acts, no? This is a television channel, you know. Elizabeth, thanks for being here, amiga. Elizabeth is commenting us that from 8 p.m. until 4 a.m. in Arequipa, Purímac, Ayacucho, and Ica. Thank you, amiga. Gracias. Elizabeth also done a very interesting event earlier. I think I have one more video to share with you. Sorry if it has been a long event. I just wanted to cover, because also my friend Elizabeth had some internet issues in her location. So I just wanted to cover a little bit of what I know she wanted to cover for you all. And in this part of the event, because her event was very, very complete. Just give me a second that there is let's say an ad. And I just want to share with you that Peruvians are not just protesting, for, the terror, or for the change of the constitution, change of the Congress. We are protesting in different ways. For example, this is a march for the peace, and we've been having March for Peace everywhere in Peru. We are calling for the peace, for the unity. We don't want people fighting their brothers, their sisters, their neighbors. We don't want enemies in the same table. We want to be united. We have our heroes here, our former militaries marching with us for the peace. People who have fought against the terrorism, and they know what the terrorism wants usually is to divide. But we are not anymore that people of the 1970s, 80s, 90s. We are people that know what is terrorism, and we will not allow that to happen. I am not saying by no means that all people protesting in the previous days were terrorists, because I don't believe in black legends or pink legends. We are, a country that is very complex, but we know they are infiltrated, that are terrorists that want this regime to exist again. And we will not allow that. And also from my location, from my position as a tour guide, as a Hego virtual tour guide, as your tour guide here in Lima, Peru, my job, as the job of Elizabeth, as the job of Mike in Cusco, is to teach, because we are also teachers. And we don't want these mistakes to be made again. The best way to avoid that is to share, to learn, to read, right? So if not, we're going to be taken and used in the way the ones who have read and want, like to move things in the favor, want, right? Ruth, are Peruvians able to leave the country? Yes, Ruth, we can go out, we can go in. You can come, Ruth, to Peru. You can travel back to the country. The only problem, it has been the protests that have delayed and closed also, because museums, of course, were closed because they were afraid of protests that were coming, like vandalic protests. But because we have now the state of emergency, remember, amigos, we have the state of emergency. The militaries are backupping the policemen. And the police now is supported in case of vandalism. So there are places where you cannot protest. Why would you protest in an airport? I don't understand why you will take an airport. That is, that is vandalic. That is a crime. You cannot do that. You can protest anywhere. But in the airport, and breaking the communication systems, and trying to break, the powers. And I understand, of course, that the intention, is what they want. But you are affecting other people, and that is not possible. Your rights end when you are touching my rights. And that's what I believe. But once again, remember, this is my perspective. And as I said before, I wanted to talk as an individual, a Peruvian, a Limanian, a tour guide, a professional, a person that has dedicated over 15 years of her life to work in tourism, that I have seen travelers from all over the world receive them, have worked side by side with the government of Peru, the Ministry of Culture and Tourism of Peru, to become the best ambassadors altogether of who we are, have taken people to the beautiful Machu Picchu, had offered the beautiful food of Peru to the world, virtually and in person. And this is something is not representing me. I want, of course, reforms. But I will not go to the main square and break the fountain of the main square of Lima, which is my patrimony, because I want some changes. There are many ways to do it. And also, we need to think better next time which are the people we are voting for. And many people vote because they say, oh, this person looks nice. People are not reading sometimes even the denounces these people have. Many of these congressmen have had lots of denounces, they've been involved in terrorism. They had all kinds of crimes connected to them. We haven't noticed that, but we voted for them. No excuses. We should not have this type of people in Congress. We need to have people that are impeccable. So, anyways, thank you so much for this, for coming to this event. Thank you so much for allowing me to come to your homes, to your houses with this story. This is not CNN. This is not BBC. But this is just the perspective of your Lima City tour guide. I try to give you some historic background, try to give you some, clear information. This is not made up information. This is information that you can corroborate online. Thank also so much for my friends who've been able to share also with the group some stories, information. Gracias, Patrick. Gracias, Michaela. Thank you so much for coming also, amiga. So long haven't seen you. Martin, thank you. Marilyn, Ruth, Diane, for coming to Lima. All of you friends, muchas gracias. And here you always have a friend and a tour guide awaiting for you, virtually and in person. If you'd like to support also this event, your tour guide, Heigo, you can do it also with a tip, because as you know, these are free events, so this is the only way how you can directly support the channel and your guides and the website. You can become also my sponsor. I am writing 2 books in this moment, and I'm giving the updates to these books to my sponsors. Thank you so much if you're already one. I really appreciate that. You can also comment about this event, share with your friends, comment in our groups. That also helps a lot. Well, I hope to see you soon in Lima. Hope to see you in some other of my events. If you enjoy history, if you enjoy food, if you enjoy beautiful views, Christmas season, I will be doing some events for Christmas. This is your channel. Also, in particular, I would like to thank two of my colleagues, Elizabeth from Arequipa. She is a wonderful tour guide. If you haven't seen her events, you have to go to visit her. She does beautiful tours of Arequipa, and as me, she's an official tour guide as well. So please visit her. She's been also today with me. And Patrick, muchas gracias, amigo, for your support, for your thumbs up, for your help, for helping me also to reach out some of your friends. So I know many of my new friends here are friends of yours. So muchas gracias for that, amigos. God bless you. And God bless you all. Ian, Margaret, Helene, Molly, Marilyn, all my amigos that have left a tip. Gracias. I will be coming back to the chat section to read your comments. I see many beautiful comments, very thoughtful comments. So I will be back here to read them all. So gracias and best to you all. See you soon. God bless you. And please pray for Peru. Pray for the people of this nation, and keep us in your thoughts. Muchas gracias. Un placer. Gracias, Bob. Gracias. Oh, fantástico, amigo. Thank you. Thank you. Gracias. Best to you all. Ciao, ciao.